The morning sun sliced through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Pinnacle Innovation's 50th floor headquarters, casting sharp, golden shadows across the polished marble floors. The Manhattan skyline sprawled beyond the glass, a glittering testament to ambition and power. Nia Thompson, a 28-year-old Black American woman, moved through the sleek corridors with the precision of a metronome, her low heels clicking rhythmically against the stone. Her deep brown skin glowed with a warm undertone under the office's cool LED lights, and her hair, styled in an intricate twist-out, framed her face with understated elegance. Dressed in a tailored navy blazer and cream blouse, she exuded a quiet confidence that commanded respect without demanding attention. At Pinnacle, where every detail was scrutinized, Nia had perfected the art of being indispensable, yet nearly invisible. A skill honed over 3 years as executive assistant to the company's formidable CEO. Ethan Caldwell, a 40-year-old white American man, emerged from his corner office at precisely 8:45 a.m., as he did every morning. His sharp blue eyes scanned the room with analytical intensity, and his blonde hair, flecked with silver at the temples, caught the light as he adjusted his cufflinks. His pale skin contrasted with the dark charcoal of his bespoke suit, a uniform of authority that underscored his reputation as one of Manhattan's most ruthless dealmakers. "Tokyo presentation needs final approval before the investor call at 10, he said, his voice crisp, barely glancing at Nia as she fell into step beside him, tablet in hand. "The flight to Paris leaves at 6:00 p.m. tomorrow. The accommodations at Le Meurice have been confirmed, and I've updated the itinerary with Jacques Laurent's team." Nia's response was seamless, her tone professional yet warm, a balance she'd mastered to navigate Ethan's demanding world. "The board's expecting the revised projections by noon, and I've scheduled a briefing with legal at 11:15 to finalize the Paris contracts." She handed him a printed agenda, her fingers brushing the edge of his sleeve, a fleeting moment that carried an unspoken charge. Their dynamic had been a polished dance for 3 years. Nia anticipated Ethan's needs, from coffee preferences to contract clauses, while he relied on her efficiency to fuel his relentless ascent. Pinnacle Innovations, once a scrappy tech startup, had grown into a billion-dollar empire under Ethan's command, and Nia was the invisible force ensuring its gears turned smoothly. As they approached the executive suite, Nia caught her reflection in the glass walls. Her dark eyes held a spark of ambition, a reminder of her college studies in organizational strategy, dreaming of launching her consulting firm one day. But here, she was Ethan's shadow, orchestrating his schedule with military precision. She noted that the Tokyo team moved their call 15 minutes earlier, her voice steady as she navigated a flurry of emails on her tablet. Ethan nodded, his focus shifting to the tablet, scrolling through market data. "Good. And the Paris dinner with Laurent?" "Confirmed for 8:00 p.m. at La Tour d'Argent," Nia replied. "The contract draft is ready for your review." Their rhythm was flawless, but beneath it simmered a tension neither acknowledged. Late-night strategy sessions, shared glances during high-stakes meetings, the occasional brush of hands when passing documents, moments that lingered in Nia's mind longer than they should. Ethan, known in Manhattan's elite circles as a man who never repeated a date, seemed oblivious to the undercurrent, or perhaps he chose to ignore it. His world was one of calculated risks, not emotional entanglements. Yet Nia, with her sharp mind and quiet strength, sometimes caught a flicker in his blue eyes. A curiosity, perhaps, or something more profound, that made her wonder if he felt it too. The 50th floor buzzed with activity as junior analysts darted between glass-walled offices, their voices a low hum against the clink of coffee cups. Maya Patel, a 25-year-old analyst with a knack for numbers, waved at Nia from her desk. "Nia, you're a lifesaver with that Q3 report," she called, her smile bright. Nia returned a nod, her lips curving slightly. And just doing my job, Maya. But inside, she felt a pang of pride. She'd caught a critical error in the report at 2 a.m., saving the team from a costly oversight. Moments like these reminded her why she stayed, even if her dreams of independence sometimes felt out of reach. Ethan paused at the conference room door, turning to Nia. "As always, you've got everything under control," he said, his tone clipped, but carrying a rare note of appreciation. "Don't let the board keep you late again." It was as close to warmth as he got, and Nia felt a familiar flutter. Dangerous, unprofessional, but undeniable. "I'll manage," she replied, her voice steady despite her pulse quickening. As he disappeared into the meeting, she exhaled, grounding herself. Mixing personal feelings with business was a recipe for disaster, especially with a man like Ethan, whose life was a fortress of control. Hey, if you're loving this glimpse into Nia and Ethan's high-stakes world, drop a like to show some support. It's like giving Nia a virtual high five for keeping Pinnacle running. And if you're curious about where this tension leads, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. You won't want to miss what's coming in Paris. Do you guess their dynamic shifts? Share it in the comments. I'm dying to hear your thoughts. The Parisian sky wept softly, autumn rain glazing the cobblestones with a golden sheen as Nia Thompson and Ethan Caldwell's car glided through the elegant streets toward Le Maurice. The city's charm enveloped them, lamplights flickering like stars, the Seine shimmering under the drizzle. The tablet in hand, Nia reviewed the itinerary for the next day's meeting with Jacques Laurent, a French investor whose partnership could catapult Pinnacle innovations into the European market. "Jacques expects the presentation at 10 o'clock a.m. sharp," she said, her voice steady, despite the flutter of nerves Paris constantly stirred in her. She'd studied organizational strategy in college, dreaming of consulting for global firms, and this city, with its blend of history and ambition, felt like a glimpse of that dream. Ethan sat beside her in the first-class cabin of their morning flight, his blue eyes fixed on a contract draft, his blonde hair catching the plane's dim light. "The car's arranged for Charles de Gaulle?" he asked, not looking up. "Confirmed," Nia replied, her fingers tapping the tablet. "And I've synced the updated financials with Laurent's team." Their exchange was crisp, a continuation of their Manhattan rhythm, but the plane's recycled air carried a faint trace of Ethan's cologne, cedar and bergamot, understated yet potent. Nia caught herself noticing it, then pushed the thought away. This was business, not a daydream. Le Maurice welcomed them with opulent warmth, its chandeliers casting a soft glow over marble floors and velvet drapes. Nia's adjoining suite, a professional necessity, maintained the boundaries that defined their relationship. She unpacked methodically, hanging her tailored dresses and setting out her notes. Still, her mind wandered to Paris's allure, the cafes of Montmartre, the bookshops along the Seine she'd once imagined visiting as a consultant, free from corporate constraints. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Ethan stood at the door, his suit jacket off, tie loosened. "Dinner plans?" he asked, a rare informality in his tone. "Jacques invited us to La Tour d'Argent at 8 o'clock, Nia said, handing him the reservation details. "The contract's ready for his review post-meeting." Ethan nodded, but his gaze lingered, as if searching for something beyond her efficiency. "You've been to Paris before?" he asked, surprising her. "Once in college," she admitted. "I studied here for a semester and fell in love with the city." His lips twitched, almost a smile. "It suits you." The personal yet straightforward comment hung between them, and Nia felt her pulse quicken. The next morning's meeting was a masterclass in Ethan's precision. In the sleek conference room overlooking the Champs-Élysées, he presented Pinnacle's vision, AI-driven logistics solutions, with a blend of technical brilliance and financial allure that made the acquisition seem inevitable. Nia coordinated seamlessly, taking notes, managing video calls with New York's legal team, and translating Ethan's jargon into concise updates for Jacques. The Frenchman, a silver-haired magnate with a penchant for charm, signed the preliminary agreement by noon. "A triumph, Monsieur Caldwell," Jacques said, shaking Ethan's hand. Then, turning to Nia, he raised a glass of champagne. "And to Mademoiselle Thompson, whose intelligence and poise make this possible. You are fortunate, Ethan, to have such talent." Ethan's eyes met Nia's across the table, his usual reserve softening. "I am," he said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that caught her breath. The room buzzed with victory, but Nia felt a different current that had nothing to do with contracts. That evening, Jacques insisted on celebrating at his private restaurant by the Seine, its terrace aglow with candlelight. The wine flowed, conversation weaving between English and French, and for the first time in 3 years, Nia saw Ethan relax. He laughed at Jacques' anecdotes, his shoulders loosening, his blue eyes catching the candlelight. In a flowing emerald dress, Nia matched his ease, her French flawless as she bantered with their host. As they left the restaurant, the Parisian night air was thick with possibility, the city's magic wrapping around them like a spell. At the door of Nia's suite, Ethan paused, his usual command replaced by something unguarded. "Thank you, Nia," he said, his voice low. "For today, for all of it." Her heart raced, the professional mask she'd worn for years slipping. "It's my job," she replied, but her voice was softer, less confident. He stepped closer, the space between them electric. "It's more than that," he murmured. The kiss came naturally, as inevitable as the rain that had fallen all day. A release of 3 years of unspoken tension, late-night meetings, and fleeting glances. It was tender, urgent, and utterly disarming. They stumbled into her suite, the city glittering beyond the windows. Nia traced the lines of Ethan's face in the tangled sheets, his blue eyes softened by moonlight, revealing a vulnerability she'd never seen. For one night, the billionaire CEO was just a man. She was more than his assistant. But dawn brought reality. Ethan's walls were back, his demeanor polite but distant as they packed for the return flight. He buried himself in work on the plane, barely meeting her eyes. Nia stared at the clouds, Paris fading into memory, wondering if she'd imagined the warmth in his gaze. The silence between them was louder than any contract negotiation, and she knew their moment had been a beautiful, dangerous anomaly. Wow, what a night in Paris. Do you think Nia and Ethan's spark will change everything, or is it just a fleeting moment? Drop your predictions in the comments. I'm all ears. If you're hooked on this twist, give us a like to keep the story rolling, and subscribe with that bell on so you don't miss what happens when they land back in New York. Trust me, it's about to get wild. 3 weeks after Paris, Nia Thompson stood in the cramped bathroom of her Brooklyn apartment, the morning light filtering through a cracked window. Her hands trembled as she clutched a pregnancy test, its 2 pink lines staring back with unforgiving clarity. The faint hum of traffic outside felt distant, drowned out by her heart pounding. She sank onto the bathtub's edge, the cold porcelain grounding her as her mind raced. The night with Ethan Caldwell, the stolen kiss, the tangled sheets, the fleeting glimpse of a man unguarded, had left a mark far deeper than she'd imagined. Those moments in Paris weren't just a memory. They were a life-changing reality growing inside her. Nia's reflection in the mirror showed dark eyes wide with fear, her twist out slightly disheveled from a sleepless night. She'd been feeling off for days, nausea, fatigue, a strange tenderness in her body, but had chalked it up to stress. Pinnacle Innovation's relentless pace and Ethan's return to cold professionalism on the flight home had left her reeling. But this was a seismic shift. Her phone buzzed on the counter, a message from her assistant coordinator. Mr. Caldwell needs the Q4 projections by 9 o'clock a.m. Investor call rescheduled to 1 o'clock p.m. The normalcy of the text felt surreal against the weight of her discovery. She'd face Ethan across a conference table in hours, taking notes as if her world hadn't just tilted off its axis. Memories of her childhood flooded back, unbidden. Nia's mother, Lena, had raised her alone in a series of modest Brooklyn apartments, her dreams of owning a nursing clinic buried under the grind of single motherhood. Nia was 4 when her father, a charismatic poet, vanished, leaving Lena with a toddler and a stack of unpaid bills. Late nights at their kitchen table, Lena counting tips from her hospital shifts while humming jazz standards, had been Nia's lullaby. "Men make pretty promises, Nia," Lena had warned, her voice heavy with experience. "But when life gets hard, they disappear like shadows." Nia had sworn she'd never repeat her mother's story, building a career at Pinnacle to secure the independence Lena never had. Yet here she was, staring at a test that threatened to unravel it all. Ethan's face flashed in her mind. His blue eyes, sharp and calculating, softened only briefly in Paris. He was a man who thrived on control, who viewed emotions as variables to be managed, not embraced. His Manhattan empire, built on billion-dollar deals and fleeting relationships, had no room for the messy reality of fatherhood. Nia's hand drifted to her still flat stomach, a fierce protectiveness stirring within her. This child, her child, deserved more than being a complication in Ethan's meticulously ordered life. She wouldn't let them grow up feeling the abandonment she'd known, the ache of a father who chose freedom over family. The subway ride to Manhattan was a blur, each train jolt mirroring the chaos in her mind. Pregnant women on the platform, their hands resting on rounded bellies, seemed to mock her with their calm certainty. Business people in tailored suits, their faces buried in phones, reminded her of Ethan's world, cold, transactional, incompatible with the vulnerability of parenthood. She calculated timelines, pinpointing that night in Paris when their boundaries dissolved. The memory was vivid. Ethan's hands in her hair, his whispered voice against her throat, a tenderness that had vanished with the morning light. How would he handle a child he hadn't planned for if he could erase that night so easily? At Pinnacle Innovations, the 50th floor buzzed with its usual energy. Nia slipped into her role, delivering the Q4 projections to Ethan's office with practiced ease. He glanced up from his desk, his blonde hair slightly tousled, his expression as unreadable as ever. "Good work, Nia," he said, his tone clipped. "The Henderson deal needs your attention. Legal flagged 2 clauses." She nodded, her voice steady despite the nausea rising in her throat. "I'll have revisions by 10 o'clock. As she turned to leave, his gaze lingered, a flicker of curiosity in his blue eyes. "You're quieter today," he noted. "Everything okay?" Her heart skipped, but she forced a smile. "Just focused, Ethan." She retreated to her desk, her resolve hardening. He couldn't know. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Back in her apartment that evening, Nia sat at her kitchen table, a notebook open before her. She jotted down plans, savings goals, freelance consulting opportunities, and affordable neighborhoods like Harlem where she could raise her child. Her college dream of starting a consulting firm, helping businesses streamline operations, felt more urgent now. This baby wasn't a mistake. It was a reason to fight harder for the life she'd envisioned. But the fear lingered, a shadow cast by Lena's warnings and doubts. Could she do this alone? Could she protect her child from the rejection she'd felt? As she pressed her hand to her stomach, a quiet strength emerged. This child deserved love, stability, and a mother who'd never let them feel like an afterthought. Hey, Nia's world just turned upside down. What do you think she'll do next? Tell Ethan or keep her secret? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I know your feelings. If this twist has you hooked, hit that like button to cheer Nia on, and subscribe with the bell so you don't miss how she navigates this bombshell. The drama's just heating up. Nia Thompson sat at her small kitchen table, the Brooklyn night wrapping her apartment in a quiet hum. A single lamp cast a warm glow over her notebook, its pages filled with calculations, savings goals, childcare costs, apartment listings in Harlem. The positive pregnancy test from 3 weeks ago still sat in a drawer, a silent reminder of the life growing inside her. She sipped chamomile tea, hoping to soothe the lingering nausea like an unwelcome guest. Her hand rested on her stomach, a quiet vow forming. She would build a future for her child free from the uncertainty that had shadowed her childhood. But to do that, she needed a plan that didn't include Ethan Caldwell. At Pinnacle Innovations, Nia moved through her days with calculated precision, her tailored blazers and loose scarves concealing the subtle changes in her body. Morning sickness was a daily battle, but she timed bathroom breaks to avoid suspicion, sipping ginger ale behind her desk to keep the queasiness at bay. Her tablet buzzed with reminders. Q4 budget review at 10 o'clock a.m. Henderson contract revisions due by noon. She managed Ethan's world flawlessly, scheduling board meetings, coordinating with legal teams, and catching errors in reports that others missed. But every task was now a step toward her exit, a countdown to a life where she could pursue her dream of starting a consulting firm, helping businesses optimize their operations with the strategic mind she'd honed at Pinnacle. Her evenings were spent researching. She scoured websites for prenatal care, bookmarking articles on single motherhood and freelance opportunities. With its vibrant community and lower rents, Harlem beckoned as a place where she could raise her child surrounded by neighbors who knew each other's names. She opened a savings account, transferring a portion of each paycheck to build a safety net for the months when she couldn't work. Her college dream of consulting felt closer with every step, but the weight of doing it alone pressed against her chest. Lena's voice echoed in her mind. Men disappear when life gets hard. Nia wouldn't let her child feel that absence. Not from her. Not ever. At the office, the 50th floor pulsed with its usual energy. Maya Patel, the junior analyst, caught Nia outside Ethan's office, her eyes bright with concern. "You look exhausted, Nia. Late night?" Nia smiled, adjusting her scarf and diving into some strategy books. "Keeps me sharp." Maya nodded, but her gaze lingered, as if sensing something unsaid. Nia's heart raced. Her secret felt like a fragile glass, one wrong move from shattering. Through the glass walls, she saw Ethan at his desk, his blonde hair catching the morning light as he reviewed documents. He was every inch the commanding CEO, his blue eyes scanning pages with surgical focus. The memory of Paris, his hands, his whispered voice, flashed unbidden, and she pushed it away. That man didn't exist in this world of glass and steel. Ethan emerged at 9:30, his voice crisp. "Nia, the Henderson revisions. Legal needs them by 11 o'clock." She nodded, her fingers pulling up the file on her tablet. "I caught a discrepancy in Clause 3. I'll have it fixed in 20 minutes. He paused, his gaze flickering over her. "You're on top of everything, as always." The faint warmth in his tone stirred something in her, but she buried it. He hadn't mentioned Paris or acknowledged the night that had changed everything. It was a closed deal, a moment compartmentalized and forgotten to him. Nia's resolve hardened. She'd protect her child from a father who could dismiss emotions so easily. Lunch breaks became her sanctuary. Nia slipped away to a quiet cafe near Central Park, sketching business plans for her consulting firm. She imagined advising small businesses, using her pinnacle-honed skills to help them thrive. But the realities of single motherhood loomed. Childcare costs, sleepless nights, the stigma she'd read about on parenting forums. She thought of Lena, who'd balanced nursing shifts and motherhood with fierce determination, never letting Nia feel less than loved. Nia wanted a home filled with warmth, not uncertainty, for her child. Her phone buzzed, pulling her back. "Mr. Caldwell needs the Morrison files. Where are you?" She sighed, the weight of her double life settling heavier. As rain tapped against her apartment windows one evening, Nia sat with her laptop, browsing freelance consulting platforms. She'd already contacted a mentor from college who'd offered to connect her with potential clients. The idea of building something of her own sparked a fire, but fear lingered. What if she couldn't balance a career and motherhood? What if Ethan found out before she was ready? She closed her eyes, picturing her child's future. Playdates in Harlem, bedtime stories, a mother who showed up no matter what. "You're worth it," she whispered to her stomach, feeling a flutter like agreement. The office holiday gala loomed, a glittering event Nia was organizing. As she finalized catering and music, she caught Ethan watching her from across the room, his expression unreadable. He said, "You've outdone yourself with the plans," stopping by her desk. The board's impressed. His voice held that rare note of appreciation, and for a moment, she saw the man from Paris, vulnerable, human. But she couldn't afford to trust that glimpse. "Thank you, Ethan," she said, her tone polite, her walls firmly in place. She'd keep her secret, her plans, her future safe, for her child and the life she was determined to build. Oh, Nia's juggling so much. Can she keep her secret from Ethan? Or is he already catching on? Share your guesses in the comments. I'm all in for your theories. If you're rooting for Nia's strength, smash that like button and subscribe with the bell to catch the next twist. Things are about to get even more intense. The December air in Manhattan carried a sharp bite, but inside Pinnacle Innovation's 50th floor headquarters, the atmosphere was electric with the buzz of the upcoming holiday gala. Nia Thompson moved through the glass-walled corridors, her tablet a constant companion as she finalized details for the Metropolitan Museum of Art event. Her navy blazer, carefully chosen to conceal the slight curve of her second trimester belly, swished softly as she handed catering updates to the event coordinator. Her twist-out framed her face, but faint shadows under her dark eyes betrayed sleepless nights spent planning her future. Harlem apartments, freelance consulting clients, a life where her child would never feel the absence she'd known growing up. Nia's days were a tightrope walk of deception. She managed Ethan Caldwell's schedule with her usual precision. Board meetings at 9 o'clock a.m., investor calls at 2 o'clock p.m., contract revisions by noon, while hiding the nausea that struck without warning. She kept ginger candies in her desk drawer, popping them discreetly when waves of morning sickness hit. Her secret felt like a fragile thread, stretched thinner each day. She reviewed the gala's jazz quartet lineup at her desk outside Ethan's office, her fingers pausing over the playlist. The music reminded her of Lena's late-night humming, a bittersweet echo of resilience that fueled Nia's resolve to protect her unborn child. Ethan emerged from his office, his blonde hair catching the morning light, his blue eyes scanning a report. "Nia, the Morrison deal needs your touch. Legal missed a clause again," he said, his tone clipped but familiar. She nodded, pulling up the file. "I'll have it revised by 10:30. He paused, his gaze lingering longer than usual, a crease forming between his brows. "You've been quieter lately. Something on your mind?" The question, casual yet pointed, sent a jolt through her. She forced a smile, adjusting her scarf to cover any telltale signs. Just focused on the gala, Ethan. It's a big night. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if sensing a crack in her polished facade, but he nodded and returned to his office. The interaction left Nia's heart racing. Ethan's perceptiveness, honed by years of reading boardroom dynamics, was a threat she couldn't ignore. She buried herself in work, coordinating with vendors and double-checking the gala's seating chart. Maya Patel, the junior analyst, stopped by her desk, her smile warm but curious. "Nia, you're running this place like a maestro, but you look wiped. You okay?" Nia's pulse quickened. Her colleagues were noticing changes she'd fought to hide. She said she was burning the candle at both ends, deflecting with a laugh. Maya hesitated, then whispered, "You know, people talk. They're wondering why you've been so distant." The comment stung, a reminder of Nia's societal scrutiny as a single woman in a corporate world, her secret amplifying the whispers. During a lunch break, Nia escaped to Central Park, finding a bench near the Bethesda fountain. The winter air was crisp, and she pulled her coat tighter, her hand instinctively resting on her stomach. Families passed by, children tossing coins into the fountain, their laughter starkly contrasting her inner turmoil. She pulled out her notebook, sketching plans for her consulting firm, potential clients, marketing strategies, a vision of independence. But the weight of single motherhood loomed. Online forums she'd read warned of judgment, of the challenges Black women faced raising children alone in a city that prized wealth and status. Nia's dream of consulting felt like a lifeline, but could she balance it with diapers and sleepless nights? Back at Pinnacle, the gala preparations consumed her afternoons. She met with the museum's event staff, ensuring every detail was perfect. Crystal chandeliers, a truffle risotto, and champagne menu, and a jazz quartet to set the mood. Ethan stopped by her desk late one evening. The office was quiet, save for the hum of cleaning crews. "You've outdone yourself, Nia," he said, his voice softer than usual, his blue eyes studying her with an intensity that made her breath catch. The board's raving about the gala plans. She smiled, keeping her tone professional, and just doing my job. But his gaze lingered, as if trying to unravel a puzzle. He said, "You're more than your job," almost to himself, before walking away. The moment shook her. Ethan's words echoed the vulnerability she'd glimpsed in Paris, a crack in his controlled exterior. She remembered his hands, gentle in the moonlight, and pushed the memory down. He hadn't mentioned Paris or acknowledged the night that had changed her life. It was a closed chapter to him, but for Nia, it was the beginning of everything. She glanced at her tablet and saw a new email from her college mentor. "Excited to connect you with consulting clients. Let's set up a call." The message sparked hope, but also fear. Her secret was a ticking clock, and Ethan's growing awareness threatened to unravel it all. The Manhattan skyline glittered below as she left the office, a reminder of the world she'd fought to join. But her future lay elsewhere, in Harlem, in a nursery she'd build with love, in a consulting firm that would carry her name. She whispered to her unborn child, "We'll make it, just you and me." The gala loomed, a glittering stage where her deception would face its toughest test. Would Ethan see through her carefully constructed walls? Nia's playing a dangerous game. Can she keep her secret under wraps at the gala, or is Ethan already on to her? Drop your predictions in the comments. I'm hooked on your takes. If you feel Nia's strength, hit that like button to show some love, and subscribe with the bell to catch the next twist. The stakes are sky high. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the hospital room where Nia Thompson sat, her hand clasped around her mother Lena's. Outside, Manhattan's December sky was gray, snowflakes drifting lazily past the window. Lena, usually vibrant with the energy of a woman who'd juggled nursing shifts and jazz dreams, looked small in the hospital bed. Her breathing labored from pneumonia. Nia's twist-out was slightly frayed from the rushed subway ride to Mount Sinai. Her tailored coat draped over the chair. Her tablet, usually buzzing with Pinnacle Innovations tasks, lay silent, overshadowed by the steady beep of Lena's heart monitor. The call had come at 2 p.m., mid-meeting, pulling Nia from Ethan Caldwell's world into one far more personal. Nia. Lena's voice was weak but sharp, her eyes bright with the intelligence that had always seen through her daughter's defenses. You didn't have to rush over. I'm not going anywhere yet. Nia forced a smile, her throat tight. Of course I came, Mama. You scared me. She adjusted Lena's blanket, her fingers brushing the thin hospital gown. The sight of her mother, frail yet fierce, stirred memories of childhood. Lena humming Ella Fitzgerald while balancing bills, her resilience a shield against the world's harshness. Now, Nia's secret weighed heavier. The pregnancy she'd hidden for 4 months, a truth she wasn't ready to share, even with the woman who knew her best. Lena studied Nia's face, her gaze piercing despite her illness. You're glowing, baby girl, but you're hiding something. Loose clothes, that tired look. It's not just work, right? Nia's breath caught, her carefully constructed walls trembling. She'd planned to keep her pregnancy secret until she'd secured her future. A Harlem apartment, consulting clients, and a life independent of Ethan. But Lena's perception was relentless. You're about 4 months along, aren't you? Lena said, her voice soft but certain. Nia's eyes filled with tears, the dam breaking. She laid her head on Lena's shoulder, the hospital bed creaking under the weight of her confession. It's Ethan's, she whispered from Paris. I'm so scared, Mama. Lena's hand, weak but steady, stroked Nia's hair. Scared he'll leave like your daddy did? Nia nodded, tears soaking Lena's gown. Her father's abandonment had shaped their lives. Lena's dreams of a nursing clinic buried under single motherhood. Nia's resolve to never depend on anyone. Ethan doesn't do emotions, Nia said, her voice raw. He's all about control, deals, nothing messy. I can't tell him. Not when I know he'll walk away. Lena's fingers tightened. You're stronger than I was, Nia. You've got my heart and your fire. This baby's lucky to have you. But sometimes, men surprise you. You could tell him. Nia lifted her head, wiping her eyes. He'd see it as a problem to solve, not a child to love. Lena's smile was faint, but knowing. Maybe, but you've built a life most only dream of. Pinnacle, your plans for that consulting firm. You've got the brains to raise this child and chase your dreams. Tell me about them. Nia hesitated and shared her vision. A consulting business helping small companies thrive. It is based in Harlem, where her child could grow up surrounded by a community. Lena's eyes lit up. That's my girl. You'll build something amazing, baby or no baby, and I'll be there cheering you on. Grandma's got to meet this little one. The words sparked a warmth in Nia's chest, but also fear. Lena's illness, though treatable, was a reminder of life's fragility. She needed her mother's strength and wisdom to navigate the road ahead. What if I can't do this alone? Nia asked, voicing the doubt that kept her awake. Lena's grip tightened. You're never alone, Nia. You've got me, your dreams, and that baby's love already. But keeping this from Ethan, it's a heavy load. He deserves a chance to choose, even if it scares you. Nia shook her head. I've seen him for 3 years, Mama. He fixes problems with money or contracts, not feelings. Lena was quiet, her breathing steadier now. Sometimes we think we know people, but life has a way of rewriting the script. Love did that for me with you. Nia's tears fell again, but they were softer now, mixed with resolve. She stayed until Lena drifted to sleep, the hospital room quiet, save for the monitor's rhythm. Outside, snow blanketed the city, and Nia felt a shift. Lena's faith in her was a lifeline, but the idea of telling Ethan felt like stepping into a storm. She touched her stomach, whispering, "We've got Mama's strength, little one. We'll figure this out." Back at her apartment, Nia pulled out her notebook, adding to her plans. A prenatal appointment, a meeting with her college mentor about consulting clients, a budget for a Harlem nursery. Lena's words echoed, "He deserves a chance to choose." But Nia's heart guarded against hope, picturing Ethan's blue eyes, cold and distant after Paris. The gala was days away, a glittering test of her deception. Could she keep her secret under Manhattan's scrutiny, or would Ethan's gaze pierce through? Nia's carrying a huge secret, and Lena's wisdom shook things up. Will Nia take her advice and tell Ethan, or keep hiding? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm all in for your predictions. If you feel Nia's courage, hit that like button to show some love, and subscribe with the bell to catch the next chapter. The gala's coming, and it's going to be a game changer. Snow dusted the windows of Pinnacle Innovation's 50th floor headquarters, softening the sharp edges of Manhattan's skyline. Nia Thompson sat at her desk, her fingers hovering over the keyboard as she finalized her resignation letter. Her twist-out was neatly pinned, her loose-fitting blazer concealing the subtle curve of her 4-month pregnancy. The office hummed with post-holiday energy, but Nia's world was a quiet storm. Lena's hospital stay and their raw conversation had crystallized her resolve. She would protect her unborn child, build a consulting firm, and leave Ethan Caldwell's orbit before her secret unraveled. The gala had been a success, but whispers among colleagues, Maya Patel's curious glances, the board's murmurs about her reserved demeanor, had heightened her urgency. The letter was concise and professional. "I must resign effective 2 weeks from today, due to personal family obligations. I am grateful for the opportunities at Pinnacle Innovations." Nia's heart pounded as she printed it. The words a bridge to a future in Harlem, where she'd raise her child surrounded by community, not corporate glass. Her college mentor had emailed that morning, connecting her with a small business owner seeking consulting services, her first potential client. The dream of her firm felt tangible, but the weight of leaving Pinnacle, of severing ties with Ethan, pressed against her chest. She remembered Lena's words. He deserves a chance to choose. But Nia couldn't risk her child's heart on a man who thrived on control. She knocked on Ethan's office door, the glass reflecting his blonde hair and the sharp lines of his suit as he reviewed a contract. "Nia," he said, looking up, his blue eyes catching the morning light. "The Morrison revisions are solid. Good catch on the liability clause." She nodded, her throat tight, and slid the letter across his desk. "This is my resignation," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Ethan's expression froze, his fingers pausing on the paper. He read it in silence, the air thick with unspoken questions. "This is about your mother's health?" he asked, his tone measured but edged with something Nia couldn't place. "Yes," she lied, the words tasting bitter. "She needs full-time care. I can't maintain this role's demands." Ethan leaned back, his gaze searching her face. "This isn't necessary, Nia. We can arrange remote work and flexible hours. Whatever you need to stay." His offer was earnest, his voice softer than usual, and for a moment, Nia saw the man from Paris, vulnerable, almost pleading. Her resolve wavered, but she thought of her child, of Lena's warnings about men who vanish. "I appreciate that," she said, "but I've made my decision." She turned to leave, missing the flicker of loss in Ethan's eyes. A crack, in his composed facade. The office grapevine was already buzzing. Lingering by the coffee machine, Maya Patel whispered to a colleague, "Nia's leaving? She's been off since Paris. Something's up." The words reached Nia as she passed, a sharp reminder of the scrutiny she faced. Manhattan's corporate elite thrived on gossip, and a single woman resigning abruptly sparked speculation. Was it burnout? A scandal? Nia kept her head high, channeling Lena's resilience, but the whispers stung. She'd fought to earn her place at Pinnacle, her strategic mind catching errors that saved millions. Now, her secret pregnancy made her a subject of curiosity, a puzzle for colleagues to dissect. At lunch, Nia escaped to a quiet deli, sketching business plans for her consulting firm. She jotted down ideas for her first client, a Brooklyn bakery needing operational streamlining. The work excited her, a chance to build something of her own. But the realities of single motherhood loomed. Childcare costs, societal judgment, the challenge of balancing diapers and deadlines. She thought of Lena, who'd raised her with love despite endless shifts. Nia wanted a home filled with warmth, not whispers, for her child. Her phone buzzed. Gala follow-up meeting at 3:00 p.m. Mr. Caldwell's asking for you. Reality pulled her back to Pinnacle, to Ethan. The afternoon meeting was tense. Ethan led with his usual authority, but his glances toward Nia were frequent, searching. The Gala set a new standard, he told the board, his voice steady. Nia's work made it possible. The praise was public, rare, and it drew curious looks from colleagues. Maya leaned over, whispering, "He's going to miss you. We all are." Nia forced a smile, her stomach churning, not from nausea, but from the weight of Ethan's attention. As the meeting ended, he caught her at the door. "Can we talk privately?" he asked, his tone low. Her heart raced, but she nodded, following him to his office. "Nia," he began, closing the door, "you're one of the best I've ever worked with. This company, I will feel your absence." His words were formal, but his eyes held a quiet urgency. "If there's anything I can do to change your mind." She shook her head, her voice firm. "It's what's best, Ethan. I'll train Maya to take over." She left before he could say more, her steps quick, her hand brushing her stomach protectively. Outside, snow fell harder, blanketing the city. Nia felt a pang of loss for Pinnacle, the life she'd built, and the man she couldn't trust with her truth. Nia's taking a bold step. Will Ethan let her go so easily, or is he already digging deeper? Drop your guesses in the comments. I'm dying to hear what you think. If you're rooting for Nia's independence, smash that like button and subscribe with the bell to catch the next twist. It's about to get intense. February's late winter storm cloaked Manhattan in a heavy blanket of snow, muffling the usual clamor of the city. Inside Pinnacle Innovation's 50th floor headquarters, Ethan Caldwell sat at his desk, the computer screen's glow casting sharp shadows across his face. His blonde hair was slightly disheveled. His blue eyes narrowed as he stared at Nia Thompson's personnel file. 6 weeks had passed since her resignation, and the office felt hollow without her quiet efficiency. Maya Patel, now handling Nia's duties, was competent, but she lacked Nia's intuitive grasp of Ethan's needs, her ability to anticipate problems before they arose. The absence gnawed at him, a restlessness he couldn't name. Ethan had called Nia twice, leaving voicemails under the pretense of work questions, offering assistance with her mother's medical expenses, or flexible arrangements to bring her back. Each went unanswered, her phone going straight to voicemail. The silence was unlike her, which stirred a suspicion that her resignation wasn't just about Lena's health. On impulse, he'd accessed hospital records through a discreet contact, expecting to find ongoing treatment costs for pneumonia. Instead, he learned Lena had been discharged weeks ago and had fully recovered. The revelation should have sparked anger. Nia had lied, But Ethan felt unease instead. If not her mother, what had driven her away so entirely? His mind replayed their last months together. Nia had been different, more reserved, her tailored blazers looser, her hand occasionally drifting to her stomach in unguarded moments. At the holiday gala, board member Evelyn Carter had remarked on Nia's glow, a comment Ethan had dismissed as flattery. Now, the pieces formed a picture that tilted his carefully controlled world. Was she pregnant? The thought hit like a rogue wave, both impossible and undeniable. He hired a private investigator, a decision that felt foreign to the man who solved problems with contracts, not surveillance. Within days, the investigator provided an address, a modest apartment in Harlem, far from Pinnacle's glass towers. Ethan drove through the snow-dusted streets of Queens, his sleek black car out of place among the neighborhood's family-owned shops and colorful murals. He parked outside Nia's building, his breath visible in the February chill. The decision to come here was impulsive, driven by a need for answers he couldn't articulate. As he stood on the sidewalk, Sistine Chapel, Nia appeared, her coat wrapped tightly around her. The sight of her stopped his heart, not just her familiar twist-out catching snowflakes, but the unmistakable curve of her belly beneath the fabric. Pregnant. Undeniably so. "Nia," he said, his voice hoarse, stepping forward. Her dark eyes widened, then hardened, her hand instinctively shielding her stomach. "How did you find me?" she demanded, her tone sharp. Ethan swallowed, his usual composure crumbling. "You lied about your mother. She's been well for weeks." Nia's chin lifted, defiant. "I'm handling everything. I don't need you." The words cut, but her swollen belly told a truth she couldn't hide. "Is it?" He faltered, the question too heavy. "Mine?" She nodded, her gaze unwavering. "Yes. From Paris. I'm doing this alone." The air between them crackled with tension. Ethan's mind raced. Paris, that night of reckless vulnerability, the memory of her warmth in his arms. He'd buried it, but it had lingered, a ghost he couldn't shake. "Nia, why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice raw. Snow fell harder, dusting her hair, and she stepped back, her expression a mix of fear and resolve. "Because I was afraid you'd walk away. I couldn't let my child feel that." Her words struck like a blade, exposing a truth he hadn't faced. His reputation for emotional detachment had built a wall between them. "I'm not that man," he said, stepping closer, his blue eyes pleading. "I need to know my child, Nia. I need a chance." Her lips parted, but before she could respond, his phone rang, a board member with urgent demands. The moment shattered. "I have to take this," he said, cursing the timing. Nia backed toward her building. "I need to think," she said, disappearing inside. Ethan stood in the snow, staring at her window, the weight of her words sinking in. For the first time, he felt the sting of a loss he couldn't control. Inside his car, he gripped the steering wheel, the investigator's report beside him. Nia was pregnant with his child, and she'd chosen to face it alone rather than trust him. The realization shook him, a mirror to his own guarded life. He thought of his father, gone when he was 10, leaving a void he'd filled with ambition. He couldn't let that happen to his child. As he drove away, the snow blurring Harlem's lights, Ethan vowed to prove himself to Nia and the family he hadn't known he wanted. Nia's secret is out, and Ethan's world is rocked. Will he convince her to trust him, or is Nia set on going solo? Drop your predictions in the comments. I'm all in for your thoughts. If this showdown has you hooked, hit that like button to cheer them on, and subscribe with the bell to catch the next chapter. It's about to get real. The Tribeca Cafe was a quiet haven, its low hum of conversation and clinking coffee cups starkly contrasted with the storm raging in Nia Thompson's mind. She sat at a corner table, her fingers tracing the rim of an untouched latte, her loose tunic draping over the now unmistakable curve of her 7-month pregnancy. Her twist-out framed her face, catching the soft light filtering through the cafe's windows. 2 days had passed since Ethan Caldwell confronted her outside her Harlem apartment, his blue eyes wide with shock at her pregnancy. His handwritten note, slipped under her door, had summoned her here. An address, a time, 2:00 p.m., and nothing else. The arrogance of his assumption that she'd come should have irritated her, but instead, a flutter of anticipation mixed with dread stirred in her chest. Ethan arrived precisely on time, his tailored coat dusted with February snow, his blonde hair slightly mussed from the wind. He spotted her and approached, his usual commanding presence softened by a hesitation she'd never seen. "Thank you for coming," he said, easing into the chair opposite her, his hands clasped tightly around a coffee cup. Nia nodded, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. "You didn't leave me much choice." The air between them was heavy, charged with the weight of her secret now exposed. The cafe's warmth did little to ease the chill of their shared reality. "I've been thinking about Paris," Ethan began, his voice low, almost tentative. "About that night, about us. I should have said something sooner, but I didn't know how." Nia's breath caught, the memory of his tenderness in that Parisian hotel room flashing vividly. His hands, his whispered words, gone by morning. "You made it clear it was a one-time thing," she said, her tone guarded. "I didn't think you'd want to know about this." She gestured to her belly, her hand protective. Ethan's eyes followed, a flicker of awe crossing his face before he met her gaze again. "He admitted I was wrong to shut you out," his voice raw. "I've spent my life avoiding anything that feels like this. Messy, real. My father walked out when I was 10, leaving my mother and me without a word. I told myself I didn't need anyone and that emotions were a weakness. But seeing you, knowing our child is coming..." He paused, running a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of frustration. "I can't be him, Nia. I won't abandon my child." The confession hit her like a quiet thunderclap, revealing a vulnerability she'd glimpsed only in Paris. Nia leaned back, processing his words. "Parenting isn't a boardroom strategy, Ethan. It's sleepless nights, endless choices, and showing up even when it's hard. You've built your life on control. Can you handle the chaos?" Her voice was firm, channeling Lena's strength, but her heart wavered. Ethan's jaw tightened, his blue eyes steady. "I don't know if I can, but I want to try. I want to be there for the rest of your pregnancy, for the birth, for our child. Teach me, Nia. I'm all in." The sincerity in his voice cracked something in her chest. She thought of Lena's advice. Sometimes men surprise you, and her plans. The Harlem apartment, the consulting firm she'd pitched to a bakery owner just yesterday. "I'm not just a mother, Ethan," she said, her tone softening. "I'm building a business, a life. I want to consult for small companies and help them grow. Can you support that too?" Ethan's lips curved into a rare smile. "You're unstoppable, Nia. I'll back your vision, financially, whatever you need. But I want to be a father, not just a paycheck." The words hung between them, raw and unguarded. Nia studied his face, searching for the calculated charm she'd seen in boardrooms, but found only earnestness. The cafe buzzed around them, business meetings, first dates, oblivious to the life-altering conversation unfolding. "I need time," she said finally. But there's a doctor's appointment on Thursday, 2:00 p.m., at Mount Sinai. You can come if you mean it. Ethan's shoulders relaxed, a spark of hope in his eyes. I'll be there. He hesitated, then added, I've been reading about pregnancy, nutrition, birthing options. I want to get this right. Nia's lips twitched, a reluctant smile breaking through. The image of Ethan, the billionaire CEO, poring over parenting books was absurdly endearing. Don't get ahead of yourself, she said, standing to leave, one step at a time. The snow fell softly as she walked to the subway, and she felt a cautious hope stir. Ethan's vulnerability, his promise, didn't erase her fears, but it opened a door she'd thought was locked. Back in Harlem, she touched her belly, whispering, Your daddy's trying, little one. Let's see if he shows up. Ethan's stepping up, but can Nia trust him? What's your take on his promise? Genuine or too good to be true? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm dying to hear. If this heart-to-heart has you hooked, smash that like button for Nia and Ethan, and subscribe with the bell to catch the next twist. It's about to get emotional. The Mount Sinai waiting room was a muted symphony of soft voices and rustling magazines, the March drizzle outside, casting a gray veil over Manhattan. Nia Thompson sat on a cushioned chair, her fingers fidgeting with her purse strap, her loose tunic draping over her 7-month pregnant belly. Her twist out caught the fluorescent light, framing her face as she glanced at her phone. 1:50 p.m. Ethan Caldwell had promised to be here for the ultrasound, a test of the commitment he'd vowed in their Tribeca Cafe confrontation 2 days ago. Doubt gnawed at her. Would the man who thrived on boardroom control show up for something as unpredictable as fatherhood? At 1:55 p.m., the door swung open, and Ethan entered, shaking raindrops from his tailored coat. His blonde hair was damp, his blue eyes scanning the room until they found her. Relief washed over Nia, though she masked it with a neutral nod. He approached, a small bouquet of lavender tucked behind his back, its scent soft and familiar. I remembered you liked this in Paris, he said, offering the flowers with a hesitant smile. Thought it might, I don't know, help. Unlike his usual calculated demeanor, the gesture stirred something in Nia's chest. Hormones, she told herself, though the warmth in her eyes suggested more. Thank you, she said softly, inhaling the lavender's calming fragrance. Nia Thompson, a nurse, called, clipboard in hand. Ethan stood, then caught himself. If it's okay for me to come back, he said, his voice uncertain. Nia nodded, her walls softening. Let's go. In the examination room, Dr. Carter, a kind woman with graying curls, greeted them with a knowing smile. First ultrasound for Dad? She asked, her tone warm. Ethan's throat bobbed. Yes. Nia settled onto the table, lifting her tunic to reveal her rounded belly. The sight made Ethan freeze, his eyes wide with wonder and nerves. Dr. Carter applied cool gel, gliding the transducer across Nia's skin. The room filled with a rapid, rhythmic flutter, the baby's heartbeat. There's your little one, Dr. Carter said, pointing to the screen where a tiny form shifted in grayscale. Ethan leaned forward, his breath catching, a sound halfway between a gasp and a sob escaping him. Nia watched his face transform, his usual composure replaced by raw awe. You can hold my hand, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. His fingers found hers, warm and steady, gripping tightly as their child's tiny hand seemed to wave on the screen. Healthy and active, Dr. Carter announced. Heart rate is strong, and size is perfect for 33 weeks. Want to know the sex? Ethan looked at Nia, deferring to her. She admitted, I've been calling him a boy in my head, a shy smile breaking through. Let's confirm, Dr. Carter nodded. It's a boy. Ethan's grip tightened, tears streaming down his cheeks. "A son," he whispered, his voice thick. Nia's heart clenched, seeing the billionaire CEO undone by fatherhood. The moment bound them, a shared glimpse of the life they'd created, and for the first time, Nia felt a spark of the connection they'd lost after Paris. Outside, in the hospital parking garage, Ethan carried the lavender bouquet, his steps slow as they processed the moment. "Can I drive you home?" he asked, his voice still raw. Nia hesitated, each shared moment like this pulling her closer to a trust she wasn't ready to give. "It's raining," he added, glancing at the drizzle. "You shouldn't be on the subway." She relented, sliding into his sleek car. The leather seats starkly contrasted with Harlem's gritty charm. As they drove through Queens, Ethan's gaze flickered to her. He said Harlem's different from my world, noting the family restaurants and vibrant murals. "It's real. I want our son to know real life, not just penthouses." The words surprised her, echoing her hopes. "I want him to value love over money, presence over status," she said, testing him. Ethan nodded, his eyes on the road. "Me too." At her building, he pulled out a small wrapped box. "For him," he said, his voice soft. Nia unwrapped it, revealing a silver rattle engraved, "For Liam, love Dad." "Liam?" she asked, her brow raised. "It means protector," Ethan said, almost shy. "I hoped you'd like it." Nia tested the name. Liam Caldwell Thompson. It felt right, strong, a bridge between their worlds. Their eyes met, a flicker of Paris's warmth passing between them, a hint of something more than co-parenting stirring. "I'll see you at the next appointment," Ethan asked, hope in his voice. Nia nodded, clutching the rattle. 2 weeks. As he drove away, she stood in the rain, the rattle cool in her hand, her heart wrestling with cautious hope. Maybe Ethan could be more than the man she'd feared. Wow! That ultrasound moment was intense. Do you think Nia and Ethan are rekindling something, or is it all about Liam? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm dying to know. If this scene hit you in the feels, hit that like button for Nia and Ethan, and subscribe with the bell to catch the next chapter. It's about to get real. The April sun broke through Manhattan's clouds, casting a hopeful glow over Nia Thompson's Harlem apartment. At 37 weeks pregnant, her body felt heavy, each step a reminder of the life ready to emerge. Her twist-out was loosely tied back, her flowing tunic stretched over her rounded belly as she folded tiny onesies, her nesting instincts in overdrive. She'd agreed to try living with Ethan Caldwell after Liam's birth, a decision born from the ultrasound's bonding moment, but doubt lingered. Could Ethan, whose world was built on control, truly adapt to parenthood's chaos? Her phone sat on the counter, a text from her college mentor glowing. "Bakery client loves your pitch. Bookstore meeting next week." Her consulting firm dream was taking shape, but today, she focused on the nursery she'd planned for Liam. A sharp pain gripped her midsection, not the mild Braxton Hicks she'd felt for weeks, but something more profound, insistent. Nia breathed through it, assuming it was a false alarm. First, babies were often late. 20 minutes later, another contraction hit, stronger, followed by a third. Her hands trembled as she dialed Dr. Carter. "Nia, how far apart are they?" the doctor asked, her voice calm but firm. "About 15 minutes, Nia said, wincing. "They're intense." Dr. Carter's tone sharpened. "Come to Mount Sinai now. Better safe than sorry." Nia called Lena, who promised to meet her at the hospital, then hesitated over Ethan's number. They'd planned for this, but calling him felt like crossing a final threshold. She dialed, her heart pounding. "Nia?" Ethan's voice was alert, cutting through office noise. "I think I'm in labor," she said, her voice steady despite another contraction. "Dr. Carter wants me at Mount Sinai." Silence stretched. Then his voice came, raw with urgency. "I'm leaving now. Please don't go without me. Please." 20 minutes later, his car screeched to a stop outside her building. Ethan emerged, his blonde hair disheveled, his blue eyes wide with barely controlled panic. "Are you okay? Are the contractions worse?" he asked, helping her into the car, his hands gentle but trembling. "I'm fine," Nia said, though a contraction made her grip the seat, breathing carefully. The ride to Mount Sinai was tense, Ethan driving with a caution that contrasted with his usual decisiveness. "It's too early," he said, his voice tight. 3 weeks isn't too early," Nia reassured, though her fears simmered. "Babies come when they're ready." Ethan's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "What if something's wrong?" Nia touched his arm, her voice calm. "Breathe, Ethan. We'll get through this." Dr. Carter confirmed active labor. Nia dilated to 4 centimeters. "Looks like we're having a baby today," she said, her smile steady. Ethan sank into a chair beside Nia's bed, his face pale. "Today? Liam's coming today?" The hours blurred, contractions growing fiercer. Ethan proved unexpectedly steady, recalling breathing techniques from birthing videos he'd studied, offering ice chips and a damp cloth when Nia's strength wavered. "You're incredible," he whispered during a brutal contraction, his hand firm in hers. Nia gasped, pain cresting. "I can't do this." His eyes locked on hers, unwavering. "You can. You're the strongest person I know." But as afternoon faded, Dr. Carter's expression grew serious. "Liam's heart rate is dropping during contractions," she said. "We need to consider a C-section." Fear crashed over Nia. This wasn't the plan. "Is he okay?" Ethan asked, his voice tight, mirroring her panic. "We'll take excellent care of them," Dr. Carter assured. "But we need to move now." In the operating room, bright and cold, Ethan sat by Nia's head, his hand gripping hers, his blue eyes steady despite the fear beneath. "We're in this together," he whispered, a promise that held them both. The surgical drape blocked Nia's view, but Dr. Carter's voice cut through. "Almost there." Then, a piercing cry filled the room. Liam, announcing his arrival. Ethan's tears fell freely. "He's here," he choked out. "Nia, our son's here." Nia strained to see, desperate for her first glimpse. "Is he okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. "He's perfect," Dr. Carter called. "Dad, want to cut the cord?" Ethan looked to Nia, seeking permission. She nodded, tears streaming. He moved with care, returning with Liam wrapped in a blanket. Placed on Nia's chest, Liam's tiny face, Ethan's blue eyes, her nose, was a miracle that erased the fear. "Hello, baby boy," Nia whispered, her heart swelling. Ethan touched Liam's fist, reverent. 6 pounds, 1 ounce, the nurse said. Perfect for 37 weeks. In the recovery room, Ethan walked beside Nia's gurney, Liam in his arms, as whispers of their unconventional family spread among hospital staff and Manhattan's elite, adding external pressure. "Let's try it," Nia said quietly, settling into the private room Ethan had arranged and living together, raising him together. Ethan's smile was radiant. "You're sure?" She nodded, seeing his tenderness with Liam. "He deserves us both. And you're already better at this than I expected." Ethan's laugh was soft, emotional. "Thank you, Nia, for giving us a chance. Liam's here, and Nia and Ethan are a team. Will their bond hold through parenthood's chaos? Drop your predictions in the comments. I'm all in. If this birth scene got you, hit that like button for Liam's big entrance, and subscribe with the bell for more. Their story's just beginning. The Upper East Side penthouse gleamed under April's unseasonable warmth, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing Central Park's budding trees. Nia Thompson stood in the doorway of a nursery, transformed from Ethan Caldwell's guest wing. Its soft blues and natural wood furniture, a far cry from her modest Harlem apartment. Liam Caldwell Thompson, now 3 weeks old, slept in her arms, his tiny fist curled against her chest. Her twist-out was loosely pinned, and her flowing dress was comfortable for the demands of new motherhood. The move to Ethan's penthouse had been a leap of faith after Liam's early birth, a trial to see if they could raise their son together. The marble floors and panoramic views felt foreign, but Liam's gentle breaths anchored her. Ethan had poured himself into the nursery's creation, researching crib safety and organic bedding with the intensity he'd once reserved for Pinnacle Innovations deals. "You went overboard," Nia teased, glancing at the stuffed animals lining a shelf, each chosen for developmental benefits. Ethan, his blonde hair tousled from a sleepless night, grinned from the doorway, his blue eyes soft. "I wanted him to have everything," he said, a hint of defensiveness in his tone. Nia's lips curved. "He's 3 weeks old, Ethan. He needs milk, sleep, and us." Ethan's smile faltered, then warmed. "Point taken. It's from love, though." The word, love, hung between them, a new language he was learning. Their first days together were a delicate dance. With its plush bed and walk-in closet, Nia's suite was a luxury she hadn't anticipated, yet it felt like a guest room, not home. Ethan's efforts to make her comfortable were earnest, stocking her favorite teas, leaving space for her to rearrange. But the vastness of his world made her miss Harlem's warmth. One morning, as they fumbled through a diaper change, Ethan said, "This place is yours and Liam's too. Use it. Make it home." Nia nodded, but the idea of permanence in his penthouse stirred hope and fear. Could they bridge their worlds for Liam? Lena's visits brought grounding familiarity. Recovered from her pneumonia, she bustled in with a jazz singer's energy, her eyes sparkling at her grandson. "He's got your nose, Nia," she said, cradling Liam. "And those eyes? Pure Ethan." Over tea, she winked at Nia's lingering glances at Ethan, who was attempting to assemble a mobile. "You two are figuring it out," she said, her tone teasing. "More than co-parents?" Nia blushed, deflecting. "We're focused on Liam, Mama." Lena's tour with the jazz ensemble was set for June, and she spoke of it with excitement, a dream revived. She promised, "I'll be back for this little one," squeezing Nia's hand. Liam's first bout of colic tested their fragile rhythm. At 3 weeks, his evening cries became relentless, piercing the penthouse's quiet. Nia paced the living room, her nerves frayed, rocking Liam as his wails echoed. Ethan hovered, his usual confidence replaced by panic. "Should we call Dr. Carter?" "The ER?" he asked, his voice tight. Nia, exhausted, shook her head. "It's colic, Ethan. Some babies cry. We have to be patient." His brow furrowed. The concept of enduring without fixing was foreign to him. He insisted there's got to be a solution, his CEO instincts kicking in. Nia's voice softened. "Sometimes you show up." Over the days, Ethan adapted, surprising Nia. He discovered a low hum that calmed Liam, holding him against his chest with a gentleness she hadn't expected. One evening, as Liam finally quieted, Nia watched Ethan sway, his eyes tired but warm. "How'd you learn that?" she asked. He shrugged, a rare sheepish grin. "I listened to him. The moment was small but profound, a sign of Ethan's shift from control to intuition. Nia's heart softened, seeing the man who'd once buried Paris's tenderness, embracing fatherhood's chaos. One night, they shared takeout from Nia's favorite Harlem Thai spot, Liam asleep in his crib. Nia mentioned that her consulting firm has a first client meeting scheduled for next month. "I'm pitching to a bakery and a bookstore," she said, excitement in her voice. Ethan's eyes lit up. "I'll be your first investor," he offered, his tone earnest. "Your vision's incredible, Nia." Unprompted support stirred a warmth she hadn't allowed herself to feel. As they cleared dishes, their hands brushed, and Ethan paused. "We're good at this, aren't we? Being a team." His voice held a question, a hint of Paris's spark. Nia met his gaze, her heart skipping. "Maybe we're more than a team," she said softly, testing the words. His smile was radiant, a silent agreement to explore what lay beyond co-parenting. Manhattan hummed outside, but inside, their little family found its rhythm. Nia watched Ethan hum to Liam, her fears easing. Love could rewrite their story, just as Lena had said. Nia and Ethan are building something special. Do you think they'll become more than co-parents, or is Liam their only bond? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm all ears. If this family vibe has you hooked, hit that like button for their journey and subscribe with the bell for more stories. What's next for them? Let's find out.